Hi, boys and girls. Today we're going to practice and begin our very first opinion paragraph. Our opinion paragraph is going to have many sentences. The first sentence in our opinion paragraph will be the introduction, then our opinion statement, then the reason. Then we'll add 2 pieces of evidence from the text, and finally conclude our paragraph with the opinion sentence or conclusion, opinion conclusion. We like to use an Oreo to help us remember the parts that go into an an opinion paragraph. First, we're going to start with an example opinion paragraph that we'll put together on this video, put all together. Then we'll begin your introduction and opinion statement for this week's writing project. So, over here, I have lots of options for our sentences. Let's read through these sentences and see if we can figure it out. The first sentence we need to look for needs to introduce the topic. This specifically needs to introduce our story called Bone Button Borscht. Let's look through the sentences here and figure out which one makes sense to introduce our topic. Our first sentence says, many people face problems at the beginning of Bone Button Borscht. This is an example of what our topic is going to be about. For this modeling of our first activity, the question we'll be answering is who faces the biggest problem at the beginning of Bone Button Borscht. So, in order to introduce our topic to our readers, our introduction sentence has to say, many people face problems at the beginning of Bone Button Borscht. Next, we have to read through here and look for the opinion statements. The opinion statement at the beginning and the opinion statement at the end or conclusion will sound similar. Then remember, we'll need 2 pieces of evidence here from the text, and we're going to be looking for a reason using the word because. In order to follow up the introduction sentence, we'll next share our opinion by saying, I think. Remember, we're answering the question, who faced the biggest problem at the beginning of Bone Button Borscht? In our opinion statement here, I think the townspeople face the biggest problem. That is a great example of an opinion statement that shares what our opinion is for the beginning of the story. Now we need to add our reasoning here, and this is where we need to make sure we use the word because. We have 4 options of sentences left. We need 1 sentence that uses the word because that shares the reason for our opinion, and another opinion sentence will be our conclusion sentence. Let's look through these 2 sentences that start with the phrase, I think. I think the townspeople face the biggest problem because they have become selfish. Or, I think the townspeople face the biggest problem because they do not share. Those are 2 examples of wonderful reasons and opinion sentences. Let's use this one because this is specifically what happens in the beginning of our story. So far, we have 3 sentences in our opinion paragraph to answer the question, who faces the biggest problem at the beginning of Bone Button Borscht? Let's read through. Many people face problems at the beginning of Bone Button Borscht. I think the townspeople face the biggest problem. I think the townspeople face the biggest problem because they do not share. Now we need 2 pieces of evidence to go inside our letter E section of our paragraph, and then we'll finish with our conclusion opinion. Here's 2 pieces of evidence of how and when the townspeople in Bone Button Borscht are the most facing the biggest problem. They stay hidden in their homes, and the shaman says they do not give to each other. So first, when the beggar is coming into town, we know that those townspeople are hiding and they do not answer their doors. Then once the beggar gets to the synagogue in the story, the shamus in the synagogue tells the beggar that the people do not like to share with each other. Our last sentence here, of course, has to be our opinion conclusion. So, We'll use this as an example for when we start our opinion sentences. Yesterday, you did a great job collecting evidence about who benefited most from the soup. This is the question that we will be answering today. Yesterday in class, you did a really great job helping Miss Penda sort out the evidence from the story about whether the townspeople benefited most from the soup or the beggar benefited most from the soup. Here's our opinion sentence already started for us. So which opinion did you make yesterday? Do you think that the townspeople or the beggar benefited most from the soup? Let me review our evidence for you. Some of the benefits that the townspeople got from the soup were that they left their homes, everybody shared food and danced, everyone nourished their body together, and everyone learned how to make soup with buttons. The beggar benefited by feeling welcomed by the townspeople. He also nourished his body. He had places to stay, and he got new buttons. So who do you think benefited most from this story? Who do you think benefited or changed their life more from making the soup and eating the soup together? Now we get to start our opinion paragraph. We will make sure we get all the parts of an opinion paragraph in our writing. Here's another reminder of what our opinion paragraph needs to include. Here's our question. Who benefited the most from making the soup and Bone Button Borscht? Today, we're going to do the Oreo cookie top, the introduction, and the opinion statement. So, we need to tell our readers what book we're talking about in case they don't know what question we're answering. Who benefited the most from making the soup and Bone Button Borscht? We're going to have to tell our readers that Bone Button Borscht is a story about, what can we tell our readers that the story is all about? Bone Button Borscht is a story about a group of people who, maybe not a group of people, we could say Bone Button Borscht is a story about a magical soup that nourishes what's that word we've been working on this unit? Oh, the word community. Let's read it back. Bone Button Borscht is a story about a magical soup that nourishes a community. We've got our introduction sentence ready to go. Our readers are going to know all about the book Bone Button Borscht before they get to read it. You can use this sentence as an example for your introduction sentence, or you can make your own. Make sure your introduction sentence tells your readers about what the text is mostly about. Now, our opinion sentence is where we will specifically answer the question, who benefited the most from making the soup in Bone Button Borscht? So, we have to tell our readers, I think blank benefited the most from making the soup. Remember, good writers use the word I think when they're sharing their opinion. Now, we can look back one more time at our evidence in case you're not sure which person or people you thought benefited the most. Here's another example of our evidence that we collected yesterday. The townspeople left their houses, everyone shared, they nourished their body, and they learned how to make soup. The beggar felt welcomed, nourished his body, had a place to stay, and got new buttons. Which do you think benefited the most? For my example, I'm going to write that the townspeople benefited the most. Now we'll go back to our writing so we can finish up our writing for the day. We've already got 2 sentences done. Great job. So I think blank benefited the most from making the soup. I think the townspeople benefit the most from making soup. So now I have 2 sentences ready to go to begin my Oreo opinion paragraph. If you need to pause the video so you can use these as a reference, you can. But today I'm looking for you to write your introduction sentence and your opinion statement. The great thing is that your opinion can be different than mine. So if you think that the beggar benefited most from making the soup, and you have all your evidence ready to tell me why, then you can write the beggar. If you think that the townspeople benefited the most, and you have your evidence ready to tell me why, you can write the townspeople. Today, we'll just write our introduction and opinion statement. Notice, I did not use the word because in my first statement. We will use the word because during my reasoning box. Then I will use my evidence in evidence box 1 and 2. We're going to make a triple stuffed Oreo. I do not need to give evidence from the text in my opinion statement, and I do not need to use the word because. These are 2 simple introduction sentences. Happy writing today! Great job working hard on your first big opinion paragraph. I'm so proud of you. Keep up the great work.